In today's video, how do you create a caloric deficit?
All by myself.
Hey guys, what's going on? This is Paul Ravella from ProPhysique.com. Thank you for joining me for today's video, which is going to be about creating a caloric deficit, how to determine what that deficit is, and the question came from my Instagram direct message. So here is my Instagram, and I will post the question up as I got it. Now, for those that know me or those that work with me, they probably think this is a bit of a basic question, but what I find is that sometimes I talk about things that are on a higher level, and I kind of forget the basics of where I began learning things. So I do enjoy kind of going back to the grassroots of fitness, things that I once had the questions of when I was younger or when I was learning things, and they weren't made abundantly clear to me. So for my friend here, I am going to do a video about the topic of creating a caloric deficit for weight loss. There's a lot of theories and philosophies behind how to create a caloric deficit, but I want to give you my baseline blueprint for how I do it as if you were my client. So what a lot of people will do is they'll find an online calculator. Online calculators typically use an equation that creates what they feel, based on that equation, should be your caloric intake. They use things like your age, your activity level, to decide this is basically where someone's metabolic rate would be. Before I go too far, what is metabolism? What is a metabolic rate? Well, metabolism is just all the processes and all the energy that is exchanged inside of our bodies that burn calories. So when you consume some food, your body then starts a chemical process to break that food down. The thermic effect of food. Lots of things start happening. The rate at which we burn calories inside our bodies is basically what metabolism means. So, why do we talk about metabolism? Well, because if you eat in a caloric surplus for a long time, your metabolic rate can increase. If for a long time you're in a caloric deficit, your metabolic rate will decrease. Well, why does this happen? Well, it's called survival. Imagine if for a long period of time we did not have food, we did not get to eat, and our metabolism stayed very fast. That would speed up the process of starvation. So metabolic adaptations are actually just how our body survives. It actually helps our species survive. Now, we live in a period in time where calories, for most of us, are not an issue. But that hasn't always been the case, and through human evolution, these are the processes that have kept us alive. So it can be annoying when you're focused on body composition, but understand that your body composition issues are not the concern of the survival of ourselves, okay? So our body and our brain are designed for survival, not for looking good at the beach, much to our dismay. Anyway, guys, in all jest. So what we're trying to do here is find a balance where we're able to lose body fat, but still be functional, still be performing, and still be enjoying life. So do these online calculators help that? Well, my friend Dr. Joe pointed out to me that most of these online calculators overestimate what our metabolic rate would be or how many calories we should be consuming. But here's what you can do, and here's what I have my clients do. Instead of relying on a calculator, for 1 week only, do not change anything you're doing and just start tracking what you eat. Download an app like MyFitnessPal, like MyMacros+, like Evolve, and just start plugging in your numbers into the app. Plug in what you eat. Don't change anything. If that's too much trouble, just write it down. And maybe at the end of the day, you can plug it all in to a macro tracking app or a calorie tracking app. Then you'll find out what you're actually doing on a daily basis. This is not a guessing game. This is not a calculation. This is actually real world application of what you are taking in on a daily basis, and that is going to be much more accurate than a calculation. If you prefer, you can just start with a calculation and see how the scale adjusts. If you take in some calories and the scale goes up, well, you know you're not in a caloric deficit. How do we know if we're in a caloric deficit? We're losing body fat, okay? So let's talk about the next step. We now know what our caloric intake is. Let's say you've tracked for a week and you realize, wow, I'm taking in 2,600 calories a day per day on average. So how would I go about creating a caloric deficit? Well, there's a couple ways. You can either decrease the amount of food that you take in, or you can increase the amount of calories you burn through activity. Now, a lot of people will get caught up and think, man, I don't have time for the gym. I don't have time to go do running or anything like that. Well, there's a lot of other ways to burn calories. My favorite way is walking. I discovered that when I travel, when I go to the airport, I actually tend to take 25 to 30,000 steps on those days. Versus when I'm at home working in my office, going to the gym, I get between 6,000 and 8,000 steps a day. Well, what happens when I travel? I lose weight. So if you want to lose weight, you don't necessarily have to be strict with your caloric restrictions and get calories super low. You can simply be more active. Our bodies are designed to burn body fat as fuel, especially at low intensity exercise like walking. That's right. So creating a caloric deficit for you, my friend, is simply about finding out what your average calories are like, what your daily activity is like, and then playing the toggle. Bring the calories down, bring the activity up in any manner that you want. The caloric deficit that you create should be several hundred calories per day, so that over the course of the week, we are losing about 1% of your body weight per week. Now that can vary depending on how far you are from your set point. So how far you are from, if you're very obese, maybe we lose a lot more weight than that. If you're very lean, it might be less weight than that, right? So 1% is just a good starting point so that we're not suffering, we're not losing things that are not body fat, things like muscle, things like other processes in our body that make us lose weight, like digestion, okay? Things like fluids. So if you want to actually be losing body fat, 1% per week is a great number. All right, guys, that's going to be it for me today. I hope this answered your question, and be on the lookout because I have a great video coming out for my competition this week. That's right, that's why I'm a little bit orange, still have the fake tan on. And also this Sunday, I'm going to be in San Diego at Brett Contreras' gym. I'll post up the flyer here. Free seminar from 4 to 7 p.m. If you're in the Southern California area and you want to come hang out with Brett Contreras and me at the Glute Lab, talk about contest prep, talk about how to build muscle, and just maybe hang out with two tall guys that like cookies and donuts. Come on by. All right, guys, I'll talk to you tomorrow.
All by myself.